Hello, my little mice in petticoats. Today, I wanted to talk about the cultures of the clans, which I know in the canon they don't really have any kind of different cultures, but I find cultural differences very interesting, and I made up some cultural differences for the clans for my fanfiction AU. And these cultures are mainly defined by the ways in which the four clans are characterized in the first arc, because my AU takes place at the end of Arc 1, Book 6. So first of all, I would like to talk about Shadow Clan. Shadow Clan is interesting because they have a little bit more characterization than the other two non-Thunder clans, but most of that characterization in the book is primarily about, oh, they're so evil and stinky, and I thought it was interesting to kind of take that and think more neutrally about what some of their cultural values might be. So, in Shadow Clan, hierarchy and respecting and obeying people above you in the hierarchy is very heavily valued, more so even than in the other three clans. And additionally, remembering and honoring your ancestors is extremely highly valued, to the extent where Shadow Clan is the only clan where people keep track of their lineages. Throughout their kithood, Shadow Clan kits will learn to recite the names of their previous 5 generations of mothers, and they will learn enough details about each one of those mothers in order to ask them for various different qualities during training, during times of crisis, and during the night-long Warriors Vigil, new warriors are expected to chant their lineage in their head and request something important from each mother as a way to sort of stay alert and focused during their first vigil. Additionally, the emphasis on respecting hierarchy, I was thinking that makes sense for how it is that Shadow Clan had 2 massive tyrants take over in such quick succession, because even more so than in the other clan, there's very much a culture of what the leader says you do, and you don't complain about it no matter what. And this also goes for you do what the elders tell you to do, you do what your mentor tells you to do, no questions asked. Having respect for people above you in the hierarchy is important enough that if a mentor does not feel like their apprentice has sufficient respect for elders, for mentor, and for leader, then they will keep that apprentice in training until they have displayed that respect satisfactorily. Shadow Clan also has a lot of traditions around humbling apprentices and teaching them to put the needs of the clan above their own. For instance, about a third of the way or 2/3 of the way through their training, an apprentice is required to spend some time between a week and a month being allowed and required only to do menial tasks such as tick duty, cleaning out beddings, fixing up the dirt place, and stuff. And they can't complain once during that time. They don't know exactly when it's going to end until their mentor tells them it's over. And it's kind of like a test of their ability to put their head down and just do what they're told. And as a further test of this ability, when an apprentice is ready to become a warrior, they will have their assessment, and then it won't be until 2 to 5 days later that they will hear whether or not they passed the assessment. And then once they've passed the assessment, they have to continue doing apprentice duties for another week without complaining before they're named warriors. So basically, being an apprentice in Shadow Clan really sucks. But additionally, I was thinking part of why they tend to be really hostile to the other clans and very proud of themselves being Shadow Clan is I've noticed a lot of times in kind of the Old Forest stories, there is some classism that goes on and how the other clans talk about Shadow Clan, like how disgusted other clan cats are by frogs and lizards and roadkill that Shadow Clan eats, and I feel like that classism is definitely not lost on the cats within ShadowClan, and so they feel that they really have to hold their heads high and never back down and never apologize for anything, or else none of the clans will respect them at all. The ShadowClan cats also pride themselves greatly on their ability to do what needs to be done in order to survive, to deal with eating roadkill and stealing prey and eating crickets if need be, just whatever it takes to not starve to death and make sure that their elders and kits don't starve to death. And in that vein, they tend to see the other three clans as soft and spoiled because they get to eat only fresh kill all the time because they have better prey in their territory. I mean, Wind Clan is also pretty skinny, but I feel like looking at the way the text describes Wind Clan versus Shadow Clan, it does seem like Shadow Clan is in more desperate times all the time. Now with Thunder Clan, for them, they actually tend to value hierarchy and respect a lot less than the other clans. Like, they're still very authoritarian because it's still a warrior clan, but less so than the other three. They tend to value more acts of valor and speaking your mind and standing up for what you believe is true, even if it means standing up to your leader. And because of this, they are the only clan in which an apprentice might be given their warrior name early before the traditional 6 moons of training is over if they have accomplished some impressive feat of prowess or bravery. Additionally, it's one of the one clans where one of their most cherished traditions is actually a tradition carried on by apprentices that, in a way, kind of subverts the authority of mentors and of leader, where they will enact these tests of courage where some of the apprentices will sneak out during the night and they will go to various sites of ghost hauntings. They have to complete various tasks that are said to summon the ghosts and show their bravery by going in and dealing with the ghosts. And they do this without their mentor's knowledge or approval, but it's one of those things where it's like forbidden in name only. Like, the mentors kind of assume that their apprentices are going to sneak out and do a test of courage at some point, and basically the mentors are more annoyed if they catch their apprentices doing the test of courage and if the apprentices successfully pull it off, because it's like, oh man, now I gotta punish you, but like I know you've gotta do the test of courage eventually, at least one of them anyway, and now you're gonna have to go out and do it again, and you're making me be the bad guy. Whereas it's like, if you don't get caught at the time, then it's basically fine that you snuck out and tried to talk to ghosts, which, to be clear, the conception of ghosts here is separate from StarClan. The ghosts in the Test of Courage are thought of to be more like how we see ghosts in our world, like, ooh, spooky, restless spirits wandering the mortal plane, woo. And, interestingly, in the theology of the clans, ThunderClan and ShadowClan are actually the only two clans that believe in the Dark Forest. In RiverClan, where there is more stability and less conflict, they don't really have as much of a penalistic view of justice. And in WindClan also, they are more spiritual and more connected to StarClan, so they have more of a restorative view of justice, whereas Shadow Clan and ThunderClan do believe in the idea of evil cats who go to cat hell. And in my world cosmology, I can't get rid of the Dark Forest entirely because it's a cool part of the lore, but I kind of conceive of it as like, the Dark Forest exists, but very few cats go there, because if you're like kind of a dick, you still get into StarClan and it's just gonna be more awkward for you the more of a dick you were, whereas you have to be at least a serial killer in order to end up in the Dark Forest. And then there is also a limited ability of cats to transition between StarClan or the Dark Forest, where cats in StarClan who just, for a very long time, continue to be rude to everyone around them and never learn from their ways will eventually drift towards a blank plateau area between the two afterlives and then into the Dark Forest. And Dark Forest cats can theoretically change their ways and turn over a new leaf and eventually find themselves in StarClan, but the kind of cat who goes into the Dark Forest is usually the kind of cat who has already been given countless chances to turn around and redeem themselves and has not taken any of them and never plans to take any of them. The main reason why it takes so long to transfer from one afterlife to another is because once you are dead, there are a lot fewer things you can do, either for good or for evil. So it takes a much longer time for your actions to kind of affect your soul and your standing in the universe, because they are much more minor in the grand scheme of things. Like, in StarClan, nobody is in any kind of trouble, so there's not much you can really sacrifice or do to help people aside from maybe like unpacking their trauma with them. And in the Dark Forest, you can't talk to any of the living cats and you can't talk to any of the other dead cats, so there's not really much more evil or good that you can do aside from self-reflection or not. In WinClan, I kind of lean more into the spirituality aspect of them. So, for them, it's not just every apprentice visits the Moonstone once in their apprenticeship. It's like every cat, other than medicine cats, is supposed to make 5, I think, trips to the Moonstone. So 1 when they are newly apprenticed, and WinClan has a rule that apprentices cannot be sent into battle until after they have visited the Moonstone for the first time. So usually this first visit happens about 1 or 2 moons into training. And then a second time, they will visit the Moonstone before they get their warrior name. Okay, it was 4 visits. A third time, they will visit the Moonstone before they move to the Elder's Den and kind of commit to not being able to go there if they like have an especial need to go there. And then a 4th time, posthumously, when a cat dies, their next of kin will travel to the Moonstone, and their spirit is believed to travel with that next of kin who is helping them to visit the Moonstone one last time before they pass on to StarClan. So, aside from that, there are also bonus times you might visit the Moonstone, like every time your closest relative dies, you will go to the Moonstone to carry their spirit over there. And also, if you become appointed deputy, then you are expected to go to the Moonstone after that, too. So this is also because, like, the WinClan cats live closer to the Moonstone. They're able to just go there for more life events than the other clans. Now, RiverClan, for this one, their main characteristic is just that they eat lots of fish, so they don't have to deal with nearly as much hunger or hardship as the other 3 clans. So with that, I was thinking I might lean kind of into, like, well, if anthropomorphic cats have more free time, what might they do with that free time? So in RiverClan, there's a much greater emphasis on arts, on decorating the camp, and on storytelling. So I just remembered a general thing that I've added to the clans as a whole is each clan will have a couple different feast days where for the days leading up to it, the warriors will hunt harder and get more prey, and then on the day of the feast everyone will eat a lot of food and just kind of chill for a day and hang out with each other. And so usually they will have a feast at the start of New Leaf, near the start of New Leaf and Green Leaf and Leaf Fall. And then additionally they'll have a few feasts unique to the clan, like Shadow Clan has the Dead Branch Journey in the middle of Leaf Bear, where the medicine cats go out during leaf fall and they harvest these mushrooms, and then they spend leaf fall and the first part of leaf bear, drying the mushrooms out so that they are safe, and then they distribute the mushrooms to their clanmates, and the clanmates will lick the spores from the undersides of the caps, and they will go on a hallucinogenic journey together. Apprentices do not partake, and neither do kits or nursing queens. Once the kits have been weaned, the queens can partake, and the apprentices' jobs are to trip sit everyone else in the clan, and also watch any kits who are already weaned but not apprentices yet. And the medicine cats and the elders will get first dibs on the spores if there's any shortage, and then it will kind of go in order of seniority usually. Anyway, so the different thing about RiverClan is they don't actually have these feasts because without times of hunger, they don't see as much of a reason to have like a specific day where everyone gets together and has a big meal. They just whenever one cat feels like having a big meal, they'll just have a big meal. But instead, they do still have celebrations along these times. What they do for these celebrations is they will decorate the camp with shells or pretty rocks, or potentially some seasonal decorations like flowers in new leaf, or herbs in green leaf, or colorful leaves in leaf fall, or holly berries in leaf bare. And the elders will step out, and they have this tradition of tellings where one elder will step out and invite another elder to tell a story, and then that elder will come out and they will do a telling where it's distinct from the normal stories that elders will tell apprentices as they clean their kits, because it's a more formalized structure. It tends to be more lyrical, more of a focus on the rhythm and on the storytelling art of it, where instead of just being something you'd say while you're chatting, this is a story that an elder or multiple elders have spent seasons kind of curating and crafting for cadence and tone and everything. So that elder will tell the story, and then usually they will have learned the story from someone else, so they will open by saying, "This tale was told to me by this previous elder, and they called it this," and then they'll start telling the story. And so oftentimes, more junior elders will spend their first few seasons in the Elder's Den kind of hearing the tellings and picking a couple of them that they're going to study and work with older elders on and learn how to tell. So in this way, RiverClan kind of has a more interest in and freedom to explore the arts and work on those crafts, because they are not spending nearly as much time on pure survival as the other three clans. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts so far on some cultural differences between the clans. Let me know what you think, if you have any new suggestions you'd like to add, and feel free to use these ideas in any fanfictions you may write. Just credit me if the idea came from watching this video, and link me to the fanfictions. I might like to read them. Thank you for watching this video. Feel free to either like or dislike it. I'm not in charge of you. And I will see you later at some point in the future. Goodbye! Also a big thank you to Reddit user Armezjin for rescuing me when Openshot deleted my entire project by giving me detailed instructions for both accessing the backups and also advising me to install a different build.